Hiya, everyone. It must be Friday. Part 2. Hopefully you saw the earlier one with the detox. But anyway, good to see you all. This is a bit more political, this one. This is really going for it. The detox, as you know, is a mixture of nostalgia and everything. This one, unapologetically, we're going to be delving into it. So with the Supreme Court ruling on gender recognition resonating in every public building and administration office of the UK, it seems, on the ramifications for each individual institution regarding safe spaces, changing rooms and shared areas, surely it has dragged Doctor Who closer to the public scrutiny and political crossfire again. We've been here before. When a show is under fire for its lame storylines, woke messaging, preachy rhetoric, problematic characterization of its heroic lead, the last thing this show needs is to be used as a political chess piece or weapon, as it will be smashed to smithereens in the crossfire. This is on RTD for deliberately making Doctor Who his prized political football, and certainly do not trust he can navigate this show out of any trouble, as he has so mired us in progressive platforming, anti-Tory rhetoric, and polarizing opinion himself. David Tennant is involved. Kemi Badenoch is involved. Yasmin Finney's involved. Varada Sithu's involved. Ncuti Gatwa's involved. This is not where we need the series to be. And this is the pivotal season 2 when apparently they're trying to desperately get commissions. Now, I've got Sean coming on from Review Yourself. Check out his podcast. And I've got Jeremy as well. So I'll get them on now because no time like the present to actually start fighting this. Hiya, Sean.
Evening. How are you doing?
Happy Easter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good Friday. I'm full of portents. Oh, look at that. Yeah, he won't eat it, you see. And if you ate that now, you'd...
Well, it's 30 years old, I think. 20 years old or something. Got something on the back there.
Very nice. If only, yeah.
It says, always ask an adult to help when using the scissors to cut that out.
I thought you were going to say, always ask an adult before you watch Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I mean, so lads, we're going to go straight into it. I've got plenty of evidence. You know me. The sense for you doesn't just waffle. So has Russell T Davies crashed Doctor Who into the political trouble after this week's ruling in particular? Because, you know, with Fear Her, they had to edit a certain newsreader out. They have certain trigger warnings. We heard recently that trigger warnings for the Blu-ray of Savages. So the Star Beast, as an example, a prime example, surely is going to be a problem for the Doctor Who program going forward. What do you reckon, Jeremy?
Yeah, I think it's got into a lot of trouble over the last few episodes in general, and I don't know how they're going to expedite themselves out of this. I really don't.
No. Now, in case people are watching us internationally and everything, before I bring Sean in, this is just the situation in the UK, because the Aussies from the detoxes were quite surprised about this. We had a Supreme Court ruling because it was taken all the way by some Scottish women because, of course, the arguments about safe spaces, etc., etc. What is a woman, in essence, had to be defined. And the Supreme Court of the UK decided it's all about biological sex. So therefore, trans women are not women, as that headline says there. Okay, that's some news from the UK. What does this do regarding our Doctor Who world? Well, we know we've got certain Doctor Who actors with skin in the game, so to speak. We know how close to the trans cause David Tennant is. That might be personal reasons. Fair enough. Okay, as a dad. And then we've got Yasmin Finney there, who actually texted this, I think it was earlier today. Trans people aren't a debate. We're human beings. I'm not arguing with that, but, you know, it shows you how all our actors are getting pulled into this. There you've got the news about the UK Supreme Court, but this is from Varada Sithu. And if you see here, she's put at the very bottom. Remember, these are the top judges in the country. What a sad, hateful bunch of humans. What a disgrace to this country. I'm so sorry to my beautiful trans family. You are so, so loved. I mean, I'm trying to work out what's happened. We've just defined women as biologically, you know, I really don't know what's going on here. Trans women are women, says Varada Sithu. Now, I'll stop for a second because you've seen Tennant there. You've seen Verada Sethu, and you've seen Yasmin Finney. Sean, we can be as respectful as we want. And as an ex-teacher, I have had children go through these problems. And I'm always respectful, no bullying allowed, nothing, we're not into that. But when it comes to Doctor Who, I do worry about the actors being so political. And I worry that they're only being political because our program has started to get very political on very dangerous topics. What do you think, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has. I mean, this is probably, I mean, I can only talk for England. It's probably one of the most passionate and divisive subjects you can even get into at the minute. Like, I don't think anyone can argue that. It doesn't matter where you stand on it. And as you said about bullying, yeah, absolutely. I think the problem when it comes to putting massive, divisive modern day issues that, I'd argue really we're in the middle of, rather than, I don't think anything's sorted out. I know that sounds a bit woolly, but I think, we're still in the middle of navigating all this. Whichever part, whatever you think, we're still kind of in the middle of this whole debate. And, some people might argue we're getting to the back end of it with, these decisions. I don't know. I'm not an expert on it. But for me, I think when Doctor Who, when Sci-fi or any TV show gets into these debates that people are still thinking through because they're so complicated, they decide, oh, well, we're just going to say, like, this is this, and if you don't agree, bugger off. The problem with that is, like, good sci-fi, in my eyes, it would transpose these kind of issues. We've seen it. We were talking before we came on about race issues. They've been talked about before in Doctor Who, in Remembrance of the Daleks, but they did it in a way where it allowed the viewer to go away and think about it and think about, the whole thing. That's what good sci-fi does in my eyes. It transposes modern world issues away from it.
Yeah, no, sorry, because Jeremy, whether you like your Star Treks or Blake 7 or whatever, it's that universal element, isn't it, that normally transcends this. And I will be bringing the thread in a lot more tonight, so stick with us, everybody. But as I come to Jeremy, the thing, for example, with Verada Sethu here, has she read the court ruling? Because you've got remember, we haven't even had episode 2 yet. And so this lame program that is limping in the ratings, the last thing we want is one of the lead actors to be associated with defying the law. I mean, what does she say here? She actually says that, because I've got Julie Coonan on here, because what she says as well is actually kind of calmed down really about this. What a sad, hateful bunch of humans. This is the judges. What a disgrace to the country. This is the judges. I'm so sorry to my beautiful trans family. You are so loved. And Jeremy, as Julie Coonan says, has something happened? The ruling didn't change anything. It just clarified what it said about biological women. It has not taken anything away from trans people. They still have the same protection. So why is our Doctor Who lead actor making it sound as though it's something it's not?
Well, because it's a bandwagon. And some of these actors feel that they have to get on the bandwagon, when actually they'd be better saying nothing. I mean, if an actor wants to be a political activist, then go and be a political activist or a politician. Don't be an actor. And particularly because, you've got to be considering, is this going to damage the program that I'm in?
Well, we know we're a bit long in the tooth as Doctor Who fans. We know Jane T and various other producers kept, rod of iron on the program and what actors could say or do, Tom Baker not smoking in front of children, that sort of thing. And it was quite impressive, the amount of control they would have, but also the respect the actors had for the program, that they wouldn't compromise it. It seems to me something's changed in the BBC, because David Tennant, Carol Vorderman, Gary Lineker, just, the list is endless. They seem to have some sort of contract where it seems they're allowed to say what they want, and if it imperils the program, stuff it.
Well, this is it. I mean, it's very strange that they have this kind of policy where they say now, if you're an interviewer at the BBC, you've got to be impartial, but other actors seem to be saying exactly what they want politically, and therefore I think it brings the BBC into disrepute. it also brings the programme into disrepute. But at this moment in time, at this stage, I don't think it matters with the show, whatever they say, because the ratings are so low. You know, it's not going to damage the programme any more than it's already been damaged, I should say.
I mean, as I bring Sean in, Kez the Drone here says they're legislated against truth and nature and demonise people who spoke out. Quite blooming right. They really did. Let's be honest about that. Now they're legislated the other way. Ever thought they're taking us for a ride? So, Sean, the issue here is there seems to be at the BBC and in the media generally one side of the topic that they want to fight for. That's their right. But I thought they had a BBC contract, and I thought the BBC had to be impartial. And I also thought Doctor Who, especially being a family drama with a focus on children, shouldn't be delving too far into politics. We all know the stories about Green Death and that, but this is a different type of politics. How many parents I talk to, Sean, they don't want their children to be indoctrinated by somebody not themselves, you know?
Yeah, I mean, because it goes back to the, and this is probably because I've been watching The West Wing, right? I've been watching a lot of The West Wing, and it comes down to that whole, how far does the state dictate your life? And I know it's an American show, and I know it's all about freedom and liberty and all, but it is everywhere else. But I think it's how much does the state get involved in your life, or how much does the media get involved in your life? And it's that kind of thing. Because I think a lot of people, I'm not a parent, but I think that it's up to the parents on certain things to teach their kids and to broach certain subjects because, well, they're the parents. So I think there's some, it's such a, I don't know, I've lost my train of thought, mate. Sorry.
We've got plenty we're going to say. So just to remind everybody, because I'm going to bring it to the Star Beast, because the Star Beast is case study number 1 regarding Doctor Who and whether, never mind, like I said, trigger warnings for Talons of Wen Cheyenne and trigger warnings for the Savages, and never mind taking a few seconds of a newsreader out of Fear Her. I think there's bigger issues going on here, surely. So you can see that the actors in their private capacity are actually stating their position. Now, I don't think the court ruling said that they're not human beings anymore, trans people. So I think Yasmin Finney, I think you're just misrepresenting there. That's obviously an old photograph from David Tennant in this case. Verada Sethu, I don't know what she's on. That makes no sense to me. And do you know what? Boris Johnson and various Tory leaders got in the neck. Remember the abuse they got because they prorogued Parliament or they challenged the judges and they said some of the judgments, blah, 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 were wrong on Brexit and stuff like that. And they were castigated. And now we get on I assume the left side, you get actors saying, that they're a hateful bunch of humans, that the top lawyers and judges in the country, they are a disgrace. Oh, that's allowed, is it? And then what's Verada Sethu doing here when she says trans women are women? She's kind of saying the judges are wrong. I'm going to keep saying this. But the judges, as you saw here, said trans women are not women in that definition. They weren't saying anything rude, and they said, don't celebrate. They didn't say it was that type of case. They don't want parties about this because it's a personal condition. But it seems that the other side are kicking their dummies out almost. And then, of course, J.K. Rowling, who knows a thing or two about criticism coming her way. The fact that so many UK trans activists are shrieking about injustice says it all. You never had the rights you claim you've now lost. You had demands. Your sense of entitlement grew unchecked because cowards and idiots bowed down to your campaign of intimidation. No longer. They're J.K. Rowling's opinions. But what's interesting in this whole complex, poisonous debate, toxic debate, shall I use the word toxic? Because we've just had an episode where he was going on about toxic masculinity. But in this toxic debate, they quite enjoy being involved. But I just think it is so dangerous for Doctor Who to be getting into these waters. Now, Jeremy, I know you were joking about the ratings and, the show. This is the least of its problems. But can I put it another way? When the show has been limping since Chris Chibnall, when it has been openly ridiculed in some of the press for being woke, when it has been slagged off for maybe being too preachy. When you pull it all together, the last thing Doctor Who needs now is this.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But this has been going on for a little while anyway. But Doctor Who, you could understand if this was a soap opera. You could say, well, we're bringing in the everyday news into the soap opera to make it real. But it's not. This is a science fiction program. It always has been. So I don't understand why they keep bringing all these issues in to the show, pretty much omnipresent in nearly every episode.
Yeah.
It's kind of baffling. I mean, there's not really been a straightforward science fiction story without any references to DEI, LGBTQ, whatever. And I don't understand it why Russell T Davies is going this way, because it's Russell T Davies who's driving it through this particular narrative.
It seems to me, Sean, RTD's driving it. I've got Farsight's quote up here because I'm about to go into some of the details to do with Starbeast, and I've gone through all the dialogue, not just the famous bits, just to bring it up. Because as you know, that a certain newsreader seconds were edited out because they were awkward for the BBC. So I just want to test ourselves, thread and panel, on how far the Starbeast would need censoring, do we think? So thanks, Farsight, the Starbeast should have been labelled not suitable for children. And to be honest, parents have that right to say that, because the irony is trigger warnings are only about the 60s and 70s and 80s, it seems to me. But anything now, if it's been made now and it's on the right side of history regarding the media elite, there's no trigger warnings at all. It's carte blanche. Go on, Sean.
Yeah, you know, I do genuinely. I mean, take away the renewal, the RTD2 phase of Doctor Who, and I'd argue, and I would continue to argue, that aside, Russell T Davies has been one of the most influential and the best writers we've had in the country for going into these issues. He was groundbreaking with, was it Queer as Folk? He's had some amazing, and he did like The Second Coming, which I must watch. He's done some incredible shows, years and years. I mean, my dad said was marvelous. I'm still to catch up with it. He did. What was the other one?
Cucumber.
What was the other one? I never saw it, but he did Cucumber. He did
It's a Sin.
Banana, I think, something like that. There was a couple of spin-offs. It's a Sin was brilliant. It's a Sin was absolutely brilliant. For something he said he avoided writing about for years because he didn't want to go down that kind of like difficult route of talking about AIDS and how dark it was for the community and that kind of thing. And for me, if Russell T Davies wants to write a program about these type of issues, write them. Because you know what, you might change a few people's minds, or if not change the minds, make them think differently about it. Have the media which influences, that's where we get a lot of what we read. You might change some minds. You might make people look at things a bit differently. You might not, but take that chance. I think coming back to Doctor Who and deciding you're going to have those discussions there, I think that's the issue that no one's saying. I mean, I'm not saying, I can only talk for myself, that some of these conversations he's putting in don't need to happen, but is Doctor Who really the place to be having these? Should they be done? Sorry, mate.
No, it's just it having been in teaching. Obviously, I talk to parents all the time. The sex education, you needed permission from parents. Let's be frank. I was also aware that some teachers, there'd been big doo-doo now after the Cass report and after the ruling on Wednesday, but there were some teachers who thought to be caring, they sided with the kid. And so if they wanted to be in the other, present as a female, saying, yeah, it was a lad on the register, they presented as a female. Now, I never bought into that because I think that is a can of worms. And how the hell can you say to parents, we need your loco parentis form for a school trip to the swimming baths, but we're going to change the gender of your kid in school permanently? I mean, please. But equally, so it's one of those complex personal issues that every parent has a very strong opinion on, right on the either side. So how RTD and the BBC and Bad Wolf seem to think you wade into this area with what we all agree is a children's family drama. No, it's an unsettled topic. Remember, it's unsettled. It's clearly unsettled because on Wednesday, the judges decided to pull back on a few things that have been going on in various nations in Britain. So it's on such an unsettled issue. RTD thought he was going to use Doctor Who to wade right front and centre into this and risk the wrath of parents, risk possible censorship in the future, and bringing the programme into disrepute. I mean, Jeremy, am I being unfair?
No, not really. I mean, they've talked about trans females, but they haven't even talked about FTMs. Female trans men. Where do they stand on that? And particularly in public spaces, and certainly in toilets. It's a bit of a minefield, really. But I think the point is that a female, a trans person, does actually feel. I mean, I'm getting mixed up here. A female, a male, who's wanting to be, feels like they're actually a woman, feels that in their own head. So it's not a kind of a phase. It presumably it's down to the chromosomes or how they actually feel. But in order for them to complete that process, they have to be classed. They feel that they want to be classed as a woman.
Yeah, and this is where there is a different argument, because whether as an adult, I remember seeing a documentary on this in the 70s. You may have seen it too, where a man had to live in women's clothing and see a psychologist for 2 years before the operation. And I remember seeing that in the 70s.
But I mean, whether some males want the foot to be in the full transition, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how it's just I don't want to ever. I think it's such a dangerous issue legally. It's such a dangerous issue for safeguarding that if people want to decide, well, I'm not going to commit to the change in your surgery, etc., and my body, then I'm sorry, but therefore the people who are of the original sex who go to a certain toilet or changing room do have a right to say, I will find that problematic. You can't, if it becomes a halfway house, then in that way, I think you can't have the same right as somebody else who says, hey, hold on a minute. I mean, my mum, dead tolerant and everything, but my mum, who's now just touched 80, said, Brendan, it's a major thing, this. She said, there's lots of, when you're getting changed in a women's changing room or something, she said, the last thing you want is, she said, it's embarrassing enough, she said, because there's so many things that women have to deal with and all the rest of it. And she said, the last thing you want is the thought of prying eyes, because that's always the danger. You can't set a precedent too much here. Now, I just wanted to bring this in. I know Sean is going to come in, but I just want to kind of link it back completely to Doctor Who. And actually, something you were saying then, Jeremy, when you were trying to get your wording right, we're all trying to get it right. Well, so was Jackie, wasn't she? When I say she looks gorgeous, is that right? I mean, is it sexist? I never said it to him when he was Jason. Oh, sorry about that, she says to Donna. Donna Noble says, does she look gorgeous? Well, stop worrying. I just get so clumsy, says the grandma. I know, so do I. That's what happens. You have a kid, you think, good, I've got it, that's mine. And then she grows up into this extraordinary, beautiful thing, and you think, where the hell did she come from? How lucky am I? Now, as I bring Sean in, I think this still has... It's about being caring and tolerant and respectful to a degree. If this was an adult, I suppose you'd have to be a little bit awkward if you said, okay, right, if you want to be treated like this, fair enough. It doesn't affect me, so carry on. But when it's a child, it's different. And a lot of people will argue, Sean, that actually using a different pronoun with a child is dangerous, especially when the child may not be confirmed by a psychologist to be not just body dysmorphic. Sean?
I mean, this comes to. I mean, I was going to say I don't know. I don't feel qualified to answer the question, but I also feel like that's what the writers should have asked themselves. These are issues that, and I know I'm not answering really, but I'm not placing my flag anywhere. But I think for me, this needs to be done through courts, through politicians, through public debate, through public votes, democratically. This needs to be done that way, because then we find out. I don't know. I think it's such an open debate for them to jump into. Like I don't know. Like I think for me, it's like the bigger crux is if RTD wants this, it wants this kind of debate in there. Well, it's Doctor Who. Like it's for me, it's like, isn't Doctor Who meant to be for everyone? So why would you jump into such an open debate and then make it? And then when other people have reservations about it, then you have the actors and the coming out and vilifying them, and I'm sure we'll get into.
I'm going to keep trying to bring a thread in here because obviously, Kes the Drone, it was always settled, Brendan. I said it was unsettled because basically the people running the country couldn't agree. You know what I mean? And so therefore, it filters down. I know when you go to the bus stop and you talk to people in the pub, there seems to be pretty much agreement. but the point is RTD making a program that he knows kids are watching. A few years ago, he used to argue about the 8-year-olds, grabbing the 8-year-olds. Well, therefore, people can point the finger and saying, please don't indoctrinate my children. I haven't agreed they should even be talking about sex yet. Excuse me. I know, Jeremy, so many parents, when they found out their children were being treated, when I say treated, in the register, they were a male, according to their parents when they dropped them off at school. Mm-hmm. And they were maybe being called a girl's name because it was agreed with a head of year who was going rogue. Yeah. And I remember one parents' evening when the parent, you can imagine this, 5th year, it's all about GCSEs. Mm. And as the parents sat down with each teacher, the teacher named this girl. And of course, the thing you never want as a teacher is the parent thinking you don't know their kid. So excuse me, who are you talking about? Who are you talking about? And they're going, and then when they explained it, well, you can imagine, Jeremy, it was a major kickoff. And quite rightly, the parents didn't know. Mm. So in other words, a lot of parents in our country would argue about this pronoun change. Here we have RTD doing a lovely glowing picture of a lovely family scene where they care for their son who thinks he's a girl. It's basically the story, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
But I think that's going too far.
Well, the problem is that the program's going into adult themes and adult areas, and it's very questionable as to whether this should be the case. But you've got to have somebody from the head of series and serials to say, you need to row back on this, put a bit more science fiction in it, etc. But if Russell T Davies is saying, no one's going to stop me doing what I'm going to do, and that's it, then, he's going to put in adult themes of sorts.
Yep. I'll just bring in a few of the thread and go back to Sean on this one, because it's good to have an exploration of this. And I'm not trying to do a trans debate tonight. There's lots of politics we want to discuss. This is just the most relevant one to this week, of course. Over the overseer here, the point is Doctor Who isn't an appropriate forum for this discussion to be had. I concur with that completely. And I was just listing before I came on tonight, if I just shouted a few out: Fort of Doomsday, Castrovalva, Legopolis, Keep of Traken, Visitation, Time Flight, Attack of Cybermen, Mark of Rani, Trin Dilemma, Planet of Fire. I'll do more later if you want. They weren't political. We keep getting told Doctor Who was always political. No, it was not. No, it was not. And so it isn't an appropriate forum. Sean, thoughts as we carry on with this?
Yeah, absolutely. And what you've said, like this, sorry, no, sorry, mate. That just, for me, it reminds me, when you talk about what actors and writers and directors come out with, it reminds me of, when we're at work, when you're at work and somebody makes a comment about something about another organization or, or like, for example, and they're marvelous, but for example, oh, the NHS are crap. And you're at work that's outside. If you speak and put any opinion on that when you're at work, when you're being professional, that can then be taken to be, and this is the problem with Doctor Who, or it can then be taken to be the opinion of the organization you work for. So then you have to, you have to then be professional and be polite, be professional, be courteous, but say, well, I know a lot of people are feeling that way, or it's awful that you're feeling that way, but services are stretched at the minute, and we're all stretched. But I can understand why you feel that way. I know a lot of my family do, but I've got no like comment on it, or because you've got to, when you make when you have an opinion on something, you might, depending on who you work for, you might have to go through your media department, or through BBC Communications. I don't know how it works, but you can't just come out and say something about, because it can cause real problems. And the only time we've seen this happen in Doctor Who is apparently when Shooty swore. And it's like, really? Like, really? That's you just wonder why there isn't somebody, somebody who's watching the money, or somebody who's at the top going, look, we don't want to be,
You've got to remember, RTD is now almost above challenge in Bad Wolf. So basically, Julie Gardner and Jane Tranter look up to him as some sort of super fan. Now, I think we all agree in the thread, he's changed Doctor Who quite fundamentally over the years. And this is just another area. This is not, Doctor Who is not political overall. It now again touches on things as good old sci-fi should. But this is wading into every family in the country. And this is the dangerous bit. And being an expert, as I am, on George Orwell's 1984, having taught it I don't know how many times, remember, there's a moment in that where Winston Smith and families are told by the government, right, that the youth, the children in the family unit are trained to spy on the parents. And it's this kind of, the state has intruded into the family home. The state intrudes with the big telly screen, telling you a load of propaganda, telling you when to exercise. You're not allowed to keep a diary. You're not allowed to have your own thoughts. That's 1984, as everybody knows. And then, of course, you've got the other thing, which is the children are brainwashed from being small to be loyal to the state and not to your parents. And when I see this sort of thing being written into not the best Doctor Who episode, I just think, sorry, RTD. Number one, you don't know your sci-fi. Remember, George Orwell wrote it about Burma and authoritarian countries. He based it on truth. RTD, you're out of your depth. RTD, you're a gay man. You're not married. You haven't got kids and all the rest of it. So why are you an expert on a subject that every parent is tippy-toeing around, teachers are tippy-toeing around, politicians are tippy-toeing around? Why the hell do you think you should throw this in to the complete plot? It's absolutely mad. Jeremy, the more I think about this, the more I do think this program, this episode could be in danger.
Like I say, it's more comfortable if it was in a soap opera, say Coronation Street or EastEnders, where you've got more time to sort of devote to it in this particular area. But in a science fiction fantasy show, 45 minutes each episode, I just don't think it comes together, and it doesn't enhance the story at all.
No. So, I mean, and look, I can see on the surface, I will try and work out that RTD, going up and down Canal Street, as he says he does, will have met people who say they're trans. And of course, if they're friends and all the rest of it, you want to be caring, and you don't, let's face it, you just have the back of your friends. And we're always respectful of work colleagues too. But to then put it into a plot, you just have to, get your ducks in a row and make sure you've got your facts right, because you can be defending your mates at work, but that doesn't mean that it's right. It's just you're loyal, that's all. And yes, he doesn't want to see anybody crying or upset. Well, how many of us don't like to see that either? So just to have this dialogue saying, I don't want to say the wrong thing, I don't want to get it wrong, that does not mean that this is worthy for the program, because it's waded into such a dangerous area. that this bit, I think, is on firmer foundations because it's basically, I didn't know there was such a thing called dead naming, but the thing is, it's bullying. And so, of course, yes, Doctor Who, good on Doctor Who to show that bullying will always be challenged. I'm up for that, Sean.
Yeah, bullying's abhorrent. It's horrific. It's absolutely horrific. And the thing with me, if you want to jump into these subjects, fine, but you've got to do it properly. You can't just do it surface wise. You can't just you can't just like Jeremy said, you can't kind of like have a plot and have an episode and then think, right, we're gonna, because that's, I think it feels a bit crammed in. And then you're not going, you're not providing either side of the, you're not providing either side of the argument in full. So then no one, it's like, if you're not going to do it properly, then why, especially at a time when, as we, let's, sorry, mate, go on. Yeah, go.
No, I'm interrupting not to take it away from you. I was just going to add, we were doing our program on Tuesday when we were going on about Robot Revolution. And I think we said something similar then about, if you're going to do toxic masculinity, Adolescence did a 4-hour drama, 4 hours. Doctor Who in 46 minutes, wham bam, thank you, ma'am, message done. But that's not virtuous. That's rubbish.
I mean, to be honest, I watched that program. I haven't reviewed it for the podcast, and I felt that it was a lot. I said to somebody at work, watch it and make up your own mind. Now, it's the same for Doctor Who, but I said to somebody at work, watch Adolescence and make up your own mind, because the way that it's been portrayed, because I think, various sides have used it for their own ends. Some people have said it represents this. Other people have said, no, it doesn't. You're vilifying it. I watched it and thought it was surprisingly balanced, and it was letting you make your own mind up in certain aspects. And I thought, I probably should have reviewed. Well, I stayed away from it because it was, but it's worth watching to make up your own mind. That's what I liked about TV and films. You used to watch it, and the program would go make up your own mind. Sorry, mate.
The thing is that program, Adolescence, was fiction. It is not fact, and the only way you get your facts these days is from the news, and then you make up your own judgment in that way.
I mean, well, that's why we all love Malcolm Hulke's work, where he kept it open and he didn't have somebody who was absolutely evil, really, if he could. He liked to have a motivation.
Well, the thing about Malcolm Hulke is that he didn't use politics and whatever to bludgeon people over the head when they were watching it. It was subtle. It was very subtle.
And I don't know about you and everybody in the thread, but I'm actually quite resistant to hype. So I never watched Game of Thrones until it was lockdown. And then thankfully I had 8 series to suddenly watch back to back. I never read the Harry Potters because I was resisting the hype. I just don't like to be told what to think. So I actually walk the other way. So I can only imagine being a younger version of myself being told this is what you must think in Doctor Who, when of all programs, Doctor Who's my program when you can just relax and adventure and switch off.
That's right.
And I was just mentioning one of his quotes the other day in our Tuesday show, wasn't I, Sean, where RTD had said, turn away from the politics. He said, this is a safe space, Doctor Who. And I'm thinking, safe space? Every parent will be panicking.
Why are we not looking at these issues through another alien species, another planet? Like Star Trek The Original Series did. It's one of my favorite episodes of Star Trek, where they go to a planet, and I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, it's where basically they go to a planet and they find out these 2 factions, basically 2 continents, are fighting a war with each other. But to preserve their heritage and their culture and their buildings, they decide, well, we're not actually going to bomb. We'll just computer generate it. We'll just computer simulate it. And people walk into these machines that basically, a little bit like the reality bomb thing. They kind of, like a kind of disintegrating thing. And then obviously the Star Trek crew landed. Think this is utter madness. And that was an allegory for the Cold War and the madness of this kind of mutually assured destruction. And when you look at the history, like, why isn't it being done like that? One of the best episodes of recent sci-fi, and I don't know how many years old it is, but it's within the last 10 years that's been done. Forget modern Star Trek. Go and watch Seth MacFarlane's Orville. They did a brilliant episode in series 2, which was all about gay rights and like gay couples, partners, whatever, lesbians, whatever, raising children, and it was an episode. It was an episode where it was done with. It's kind of like a Klingon, but he's not a Klingon. I can't remember what it is. But basically,
Yeah.
their whole species were male. So when they wanted to procreate, like two males got an egg, and like I said, I watched it, but it was
The thing
a
is,
really good
though,
episode because it allowed you to think. It allowed you to think. It allowed you to think. Oh, that's a little bit like this,
is
or
this,
could it mean that? And it.
but
Sorry.
I know, but
Yeah.
let me just say, is this what it comes to now, that sci-fi has to do all these blooming identity issues, sexuality issues? You know, I'm gay. I don't need to see it blubby on telly every 5 minutes. I didn't see it on telly every 5 minutes when I was growing up, and you know what? I think I'm pretty well rounded, and I don't feel like a blooming victim. You know, all that twaddle you hear nowadays about you have to be seen on TV. No, you don't. What we need on TV is good stories. And I find them maudlin, a bit tedious, a little bit kind of self-centered. That's why I like sci-fi. You're looking outwards. You're looking wider. You're looking bigger. Part of the sci-fi I liked was that kind of idea that we weren't the only ones. That idea of sci-fi is what I like. I don't want us going, do you know what? There's a million worlds out there, but I want us to talk about which is the most correct pronoun with my kid. I mean, for God's sake, how parochial is that? Surely sci-fi is a little bit more ambitious than that, RTD. Just a little bit more.
It
Dear
should
me.
be. It should be. I mean, look at that episode. And I know he's not everyone's favorite character, and I don't want to. I don't use the word much. I don't want to trigger the chat. I know he's very divisive, so buckle in for what may be the most divisive thing I say tonight. I know a lot of people don't like Wesley Crusher in Next Generation. I know they don't, right?
God,
But
no.
stick with me a minute. Don't. No. Don't switch off. Please don't switch off. Yeah. So there's an episode where they land on an alien planet. Wesley, like, he's playing with a lot of kids his own age. And I think a ball or a frisbee or something ends up on the grass. He runs on the grass to go get it back. He doesn't sit down and touch the grass. That message hadn't come yet. He just goes to collect the ball or the frisbee or whatever. And then because he's done that, he essentially gets sentenced to death or something like that. And it's basically Picard comes, and it's all about respecting somebody else's laws. And it's like, this is madness. We can't have this for what he's done. But it's like, yeah, but we've landed on somebody else's... I was going to say shores then. Planet, sorry. We've landed on somebody else's planet, someone's shores, and we've broken their laws, and this is the punishment. And it was a fascinating episode. You know, the episode where, you know, that episode where it's about data and what is a person, and that the first link in the chain is forged. Yeah, go on, mate.
Well, I'll get, yeah.
Oh, no, I was just using good science fiction, which isn't Doctor Who anymore.
Yeah, I agree. So on the Star Beast one, my problem case study number one, we've got the issue with the pronouns. We've got the issue, obviously, talking about, you know, dead naming, which is basically a version of bullying, I know. Maybe that's why we need to be very careful with kids. You know, that's why the CAS report said we should, you know, transition adults if that's what they want, but kids should be kept out of it. They follow trends. We've all read or seen The Crucible. They follow trends. It's too dangerous. Now, a dialogue like this, sometimes I think I'm from a different planet. Now, come on, who's been a teenager? It's not specific to just feeling like you're in the wrong body, feeling like you're from a different planet. You know what it's like to be a teenager. So that could be a universal bit of dialogue in one respect. In another respect, it's trying to make a special claim for thinking you're trans. And I think that's where I hit another problem, because you're not different. You're being a classic teenager, whether it's you don't like your body, whether you think you're in the wrong body, whether you just think you don't like your spots. There's a whole spectrum there of being a teenager who thinks you're on a different planet to your parents. Isn't that what basically that should be what's going on?
I think we were all a bit awkward as teenagers, but as I get older, I feel like sometimes I'm on a different planet now. I think what's going on, you know, because you think this is not common sense. You know, I mean, the past was a foreign country, I suppose, but to me, a lot of this stuff is not common sense. and this is why the country is the way it is at the moment. But
See,
it's not just the UK; it's America and Europe as well.
But you see, this is why I've got a concern. This bit of dialogue is prepping us for the end of the episode when an awful lot of triggering stuff was said. So basically, you think you're from a different planet, you say to an alien. And then, of course, we get some really problematic dialogue in a minute. I won't forget this bit. The chosen pronoun argument always sounds a bit superficial and kind of frothy. But actually, in another way, I used to teach up to A-level spoken discourse, and it breaks all the rules of spoken discourse. We all have ways we start conversations, and a lot of them are, we recognize them in other people. Interruption is obviously seen as aggressive or whatever. It means you either disagree with the person, blah, blah. There's a whole list going on in your head while you interrupt somebody. The chosen, hello, before we start this conversation, these are my pronouns. That is no way anybody should start a piece of spoken discourse. It breaks all the rules. I'm sorry, because that means every time I start a conversation in the rest of my life, if I'm trans, say, I dictate the terms of the conversation. Nobody does that on this planet. Nobody does. We decide whether we want to listen. We decide whether we want to play ball. Isn't that the art of spoken discourse? Sometimes you have a stroppy conversation with somebody because you disagree with them, or you don't like them patronizing you, or whatever. There's so many things that go on, but you can't decide the parameters of the conversation. I think it's a bit different if in a workspace you sent an email and you said, this is how if you could please, if you want to be respectful, this is how you could talk. Which pronouns. That's a bit different. But to then make Doctor Who all about the pronouns, when actually, as I said, every parent I was aware of would have gone off their heads if they heard that the pronouns had been changed with their kids. So this, I personally am saying, what does the thread think? What does the panel think? I think this should be out the programme completely.
I mean, why would an alien being be more concerned about the pronoun? It's just too daft for words.
And why wouldn't the Doctor sorry, Shan, I will come to you. Why would the Doctor, this great alien who's universally wise, say, oh yeah, good point. Yes. You've taught me something. No, she hasn't. And honestly, go on, Sean.
No, you've made my point, to be fair. No, hang on. Yeah, for me, it's like you said, the Doctor, he's seen all the space and time, not all of it, but most of it, a lot of it, is 2000, however many years old he is now. And for me, it's like all they needed to do, they could have made something more of this. You could have had Sylvia being a little bit more confused about what to say and this kind of thing. And she's not sure, and she's got reservations. Donna and, her kid are kind of saying, oh, well, it's this, it's that. And then the doctor should be the one to step back and say, and I know this is clunky, but I'm not a bloody writer. The Doctor should have said something like, don't worry, you'll figure this all out. You'll figure it out in time. That's all he needed to say. That's it. Because then the Doctor isn't picking a side. The Doctor's just saying, it's a trick, don't worry, you'll figure it out in time. I mentioned before we came on about that scene in Remembrance with the shopkeeper or the cafe owner, where the Doctor owner has that speech. That's right, yeah, cheers. Marvelous, because it lets you think. It doesn't shy away from the topic, and it lets you think. And we get not Tegan. Ace with the sign in the window. You get kind of thanks. Yeah, sorry, I do apologize, everybody. I'm getting there with Classic Girl. They'll have me off this show soon. But yeah, you've got all that, and it was just very well done. It was good writing. You could clearly tell there was people going, right, what do we want to look at? Because I thought that stuff was great. So they could have done it. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have done this. There's ways to do it, and it's good writing. There's ways to have different conversations, or at least sorry, mate, go on, yeah.
Sorry, but this is not good writing. For example, you stupid woman with your weird child. This is obviously because Beep the Meep has now turned nasty, and to show Beep the Meep has turned nasty, he calls Rose Noble a weird child, and obviously calls Donna Noble stupid, and we go, oh, boo, hiss. I mean, gosh, it's so subtle.
Is beep the meep they or them? Was it established as
It was
Mr. and Mrs.
established that it was
male or female
the definitive
the
article, a bit like Tom Baker.
yeah.
or non-binary? I don't know.
Yeah. Now, this is the bit, and this is what I mean. I'm challenging everybody in the panel and the thread before we go wider, and please suggest wider, of course. This bit here, we had the meta crisis of Donna. It's the special. We need to sort it out because RTD screwed up there. We're binary. She's not. Rose Noble's not binary because the Doctor's male and female, and neither and more. So in other words, this is a very, very deliberate play for saying there are trans children. Doctor Who is saying that in this plot, isn't it? That there are trans children. That goes against the cast report, and you are a man, woman, and more. And so it's going even further than the UK Supreme Court. They said it's down to biological sex. I assume by inference, they're saying there's two sexes and that's it. You can't say there's non-binary. You can't say all these extra ones. The UK Supreme Court, by that inference, is saying you have men and you have women, end of. But Doctor Who has decided to say, no, there's more genders. I mean, I think this at least has to be censored. But then it mucks up the whole blooming plot, doesn't it?
How do children, when they watch this, assimilate the information? It'd be very interesting to ask some of these kids what they think about the show and what they think about the scripts, because I don't know. I think if I was a young child watching this or a young kid watching it, I think it would just be going over my head, literally.
There is an element. I'm sounding very cynical here, but there's an age in children when they all, the old-fashioned Miss World competition, and the joke was that every model would say, "I want world peace."
Yeah,
they always have this great ideal, and you think, oh, whatever. I want to travel, and I want world peace. Is every Miss World candidate ever? Lots of teenagers will say, they want this, they want that, and they'll list you all their ideals. So this plays into that froth, which is, let's be nice to each other. And Mum, Dad, you don't realize we have a trans kid in our class, and this is how you do it, and then this is how you speak to them, and we know better than you. And all we do is we hug between each lesson, and we do this and we do that, and we send them emojis, and we check they're all right. The language I used to hear between children, between lessons. So basically, it was either that I was the most authoritarian, dangerous person to be left with for an hour, that when you left my English classroom, people would be hugging, going, "Are you all right? Are you?" But that's how they talk across the whole school. "Are you okay?" Right. And you're thinking, it's all hyper. So actually, Jeremy, I think this all plays into that, which is all this kind of, you're special, you're amazing. These are all empty words, because the same kids who said be kind, the same kids who said, "Oh, she's my most amazing friend," the next day they're slapping each other and blocking each other on the internet. Sean, you wanted to come in on that.
Yeah, sorry. Where was I up to? Well, it reminded me, and I know this episode predates the quote, and I don't know if you did it on our Tuesday show or whether I've seen it on one of your other streams. Didn't RTD say something like, turn away from the news, don't suck on the exhaust pipe? Turn away from the news, come to the place of light and wonder and care, and something like that. But we want to turn away from the news of all the divisiveness, blah, 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 blah. But then you put on Doctor Who and it's got exactly the same issues. It's like, I don't understand. In what way is that escapism? That's all people want, escapism. People don't want it. Like, we're on a Doctor Who podcast right now.
Yes.
And we're meant to be discussing Doctor Who, and we're discussing this. And we had this in the Chibnall's first run. Every episode felt like,
what about,
I was going to go all Harry Hill's TV burp there, but it was like, this is the topic of the week. This is the subject of the week. This week it's America. This week it's British Raj in India. This week it's this week. That's what it felt like. And it was like, Yeah.
What about?
Go on.
I've got Paul
Sorry.
Holgate in the thread here, Jeremy, talking about the rumor about bi-generation of Mrs. Flood. I was referring to this in one of our streams recently. I've done so many, I can't remember which one, but I was saying,
Yeah.
okay, some of us died in the wool Doctor Who fans thought, why did you do bi-generation of the 14th and 15th Doctor? What's going on there? Now, it happened, whether we liked it or not. But now there's rumors that Mrs. Flood might be a bi-generation of Missy or the Master or whatever. And that there's a great play going on here. But bi-generation in itself is
Brendan, please tell me you're making that up.
No.
It's a rumor, isn't it?
Please tell me
It's
you're
a
making
rumor.
that up. Oh, God.
But the thing is, bi-generation, I think, plays into this identity politics, if you think about it, because it's not quite Jekyll and Hyde. It says there's two people inside you coexisting, and that plays into, it could be a gender thing, it could be this. It's a bit like when we had Hellbent and the male Time Lord regenerated into a female Time Lord. And that, I assume, that proves you can be gender fluid. I think Doctor Who is really, really cruising for a bruising on this topic. And I don't think I'm reading into it. I think bi-generation, going from male to female, female to male, is walking into this debate, Jeremy. I think it's dangerous.
Yeah. And it has been for the last how many years? And this is why we're back to the same situation, that the ratings are just going down.
Oh, well, yeah, because we want a story. I mean, but I'm going to get a vote off everybody in a minute, because I'll have proved, hopefully, my point about Star Beast, I think. And the trouble is, it explains, and it's integral to the plot, how Donna Noble can now meet the Doctor without some big meta crisis. And this is, so therefore, if you take this dialogue out or take this episode out, then the whole Doctor Who universe doesn't make any sense anymore. But of course, this bit I just found extremely triggering. And I think it is extremely problematic. We know everything, thanks, and you know nothing. It's a shame you're not a woman anymore, something a male presenting Time Lord will never understand. Now, I think really it's not necessarily gender politics that's going on there. It's just pure sexism that's been blatantly crooked, levered in. But obviously it was because she felt different from another planet. But now we know how special you are. And I just think this is, in other words, now you've found your real gender. It's always going to be a fairy tale. It's always going to be a happy ending. It's always going to be perfect. And you're better than other people who just feel a bit average. I think the whole story on nearly every level is dangerous and wrong and a lie. So, Sean, did you want to come in on this great sparkling dialogue?
Yeah, I mean, just to try and drag it back to Doctor Who for a second. No, I'm joking. I think, for me, my biggest issue with this whole bit is that it destroys Donna Noble's arc, which was one of the best things and one of the best payoffs, and we've seen how the payoffs have gone recently, that RTD ever did. The fact that Donna, who was someone who believed she was nothing and believed she was stupid and she wasn't special, she turned out to be, really important. And I know they kind of pushed it a bit far with the Dr. Donna sometimes, but I loved that arc, and I loved the fact that, to survive, the Doctor has to wipe her mind. She regresses back to what she used to be. Ignorant's a strong word, but not ignorant, but certainly her world wasn't as big. Her view wasn't as big. The Doctor helped her, he helped broaden her horizon. She went through there was some awesome episodes, Fires of Pompeii, where they had, where she's trying to stop the running down to the beach. Yeah. And having been to Pompeii, that is a bloody hell of a scene, that. It's Herculaneum with the beach. But anyway, it was unbelievable arc. And then, and it got brought back in the end of time, where she basically, her head kind of half exploded with all her masters. And then, like, they just undid that. The Doctor says to Sylvia, maybe you should tell her that, that she's special more often. She's your daughter. It was that's a really good message. There's nothing wrong with having messages about being all you can be, and You might think that you just, this boring
Is-
temp from Chiswick.
I
I loved it, and it just did it all. It was like, why?
I agree with what you're saying to a degree. I'm bored with soap opera in Doctor Who, though. I really am. Anyway, that. I mean, it doesn't. My relevance to this is, has RTD taken us into really dangerous territory as Doctor Who? Obviously, if it's soap opera, some would say, get over it, Brendan. I know me and Jeremy are obviously on the same page on this one. But can I ask for a vote in the thread and from the panel now on, having seen me remind you of some of the nuts and bolts of the Star Beast episodes, since Fear Her has been edited to take a newsreader out. There's trigger warnings for Savages, Talons of Wen-Chian, and various other Doctor Who episodes. Can this be repeated now, really, after the court ruling on Wednesday that biological women are women and you can't wade into any other area? Like I said, every business in the country is having to check how they treat people now, toilet-wise, changing room-wise, everything. Well, Doctor Who surely has to do the same thing about its whole kind of setup. So I'm asking everybody in the thread now, is Star Beast as an episode safe to stay on iPlayer, safe to be repeated, or has it now gone into dangerous legal territory? That's just my question there. Jeremy, what are your thoughts?
The only way the BBC can slightly get around that is obviously to have some sort of disclaimer or something before the episode is transmitted or afterwards. But knowing the BBC, they'll just transmit it the way it is.
John?
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? We don't know how the future's going to go. Might it be replayed like Steptoe episodes are replayed, where it says, the attitudes in this program reflect the time? Possibly, I don't know. But this is what's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of discussion now around this whole thing, and we'll what's the phrase? We'll see where everything falls.
I know, but isn't it fascinating though that they can free and easy when it's somebody else's program from the past? I mean, RTD is very good at this. Somebody else's writing, somebody else's invention, somebody else's monster. He will rewrite it, butcher it, vandalize it, culturally appropriate it for himself. He'll do whatever he wants. But I think he sums up the media elites nowadays in lots of the media organizations, that they know best. I don't think we've progressed at all. It's mother knows best. The BBC are being really mother knows best nanny state now, where basically we have a very special message. And it's much more nuanced and sensitive than those Robert Holmes episodes and those Malcolm Hulke episodes. No, they need a little warning just in case. But ours don't, because we are special. What the hell is it about this generation of writers and producers of all our media organizations who seem to think they are above challenge, above question, and actually that everything they've written is safe? Sorry, remember, ex-head of English, buying books. I decide what to teach the kids were taught sometimes. And I would be very careful with taxpayers' money on what was taught and what was read, because you can't just do things on a whim. You always get a teacher, who says, can we just do this with a class? I'm going, why? Why? I've never heard of this book. Let me have a read of the book. What? It's special. It's classical English. It's high standard English to teach kids. It's a brilliant story. They're my measurements. But now, it's without, you can't cast a word against any of RTD's scripts. What, really? No.
Is it a lack of oversight then?
There's a lack of oversight, but there's also an arrogance. Why do they think that I mean, it's very hard to judge yourself, let's be honest, and to be self-critical, although we all seem to manage it, don't we? But
I'm cracking at it.
Well, you see, remember, all the old TV is challenged. It's easy to slag off other programs. Oh, that one. Oh, it's very sexist. There are messages in it that might trigger somebody. Oh, they love putting all that stuff on. It's dead easy because it's somebody else's work. When it's their own work, no. Go on.
You get to see it in. Sorry, Jeremy. You get to see it in. What the bloody hell's the word? Oh, Jesus Christ! Come on. Context. That's it. You get to see it in its historical context. I think that's why sometimes they're able to go, right, this program might show this. I mean, although sometimes it is surprising. I watched Signs recently, 2002 Mel Gibson film. Watched that recently, and that had Field of Dreams I watched, and that had a disclaimer saying, warning, contains tobacco depiction. And I was like, really? They're putting that on? That's like every film in existence.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay. So like sometimes it's a bit funny, but I don't know. Like I think with all the shows they can see them more in context. And it's like the argument with statues historically. If you want to put something on there saying this building was funded by X, do that because then it opens up the debate. Like Sorry, go on. Anyway, Jeremy, sorry.
It's just I want to say, because we said we'd go wider, we'd bring in all of Doctor Who and all the rest of it. But this is the Puritans. They seem to think. I mean, you mentioned the point about statues and cultural revisionism, that we are allowed to challenge everything from the past and judge it because we are better people now. Who said? Who said? I mean, Jeremy, I think it's dangerous to do this. And actually, you're attacking people's culture. Now, culture is massive. Society being changed is massive. And you can see why people get triggered and angry. But then when you bring it down, Doctor Who is a British cultural icon now. And RTD freely has been doctoring it, changing it, capturing it.
Yeah, it's an attack on British culture, British values, and British society. And that's happening everywhere, including the BBC. And as at the moment, the BBC falls between two stools. It's criticising the programmes that it used to make by putting a warning on it saying, oh, this might upset people and blah, blah, blah. Well, if you feel that way, don't broadcast it. But they broadcast it because it's popular. So therefore, that's the reason why they broadcast it. But if you look at today's schedules, there's a lot of programs that are pretty bland and they keep repeating them because they can't put on anything that's too controversial.
Because controversial makes you think as well. Let's be honest, is what I'm not crazy about.
I mean, putting on Carry On films, the BBC, we're not touching those.
Yeah. So just to widen things and add to the context, okay, we had the ruling from the Supreme Court on Wednesday. Kemi Badenoch, who's the leader of the opposition in the United Kingdom. Well, there's skin in the game here as well, isn't there? Because David Tennant obviously wished her away, didn't he? Oh, foolish man that he is. So she's given him they call it a 3-word blast. She doesn't. She just says she was right. So basically, Doctor Who, the 10th Doctor, the 14th Doctor is told off by our leader of the opposition. Do you see why I think this is a dangerous area? Nigel Farage has mentioned Doctor Who. Kemi Badenoch has mentioned Doctor Who. Half our actors seem to be venting some politics. I just find this a really dangerous area for the programme to be in when it's limping along as it is.
The main opposition now is reform. And there's going to be a problem in a few years' time because when we have a general election, and if reform win it, or they win it with the Conservatives, there will be a change of attitudes, certainly.
There will. I think there'll be there's going to be a hell of a battle. We all know that, David Tennant, when he was at an LGBT award ceremony, said he wished she didn't exist, so to speak, Kemi Badenoch. Then she was made leader of the opposition. So awkward. We know RTD is pretty vile about one political party in this country, the Conservative Party. I'm sorry, but should you be wading into these areas when you are responsible for a program that's limping along? And Nigel Farage, as you can see there, calling out the BBC for ruining Doctor Who was not on my list of things. Says Golden Age Geek. I didn't expect this. I didn't expect Doctor Who to be all over the politics. And in the middle there, Sylvester McCoy, you know, don't let the bad knocks get to you. But then recently, he then got involved in the Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris election. You know, what is it now about our Doctor Who actors and Doctor Who producers that makes them think they can use their fame and success from the Doctor Who program to further the, politics is divisive anyway. But I don't want Doctor Who to be hated by some people because it's seen as now too progressive or too this or too that. I want it away from the fray.
I think the main issue is the quality. I mean, the main issue is the quality of the scripts, the quality of the writing. I think that's what it mostly boils down to, and but also the injection of politics from the producer, the actors, etc. only confirms to a lot of people, as you said, that this is a political show.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. I can hear people, Sean. I can. It's like your own little vox pops of life. Like you said at the match, or if you go to the football match and you talk to the people in the crowd, you are at the bus stop. You hear people talking on the bus. Various places, pubs. You hear people, and Doctor Who can come up, or they say programs of that like. You can hear people getting sniffy about certain BBC programs in particular, and the thought that Doctor Who is now seen as a laughingstock. I mean, laughingstock, open to ridicule, that kind of woke program. This is not what it needs.
I don't think people think. Honestly, I don't. I think, with all due respect, Brendan, you're overestimating it. Genuinely, I asked the lads at work, who all used to watch Doctor Who, bits of classic here and there. They caught bits of the new series. I was convinced by one of them, and he knows who he is, to give Shooty's Doctor a chance, because I was what I call Jeremy-fied at that point. I was like, I'm not watching anymore. I'm fed up. I can't be bothered. It's not doing it for me. I'm not watching it. He convinced me to give Church of Ruby Rose a chance. He said, go on, watch it. I did. He watched it, stopped watching. So I was like, you git. So I asked the lads at work, I said, did you watch it before? They all watched it. But they're what we call casual viewers. They're not aware of this. They don't read this stuff. You read more than I do, Brendan, about all this. I just don't really care. Like, they've stopped watching because it's crap. They've stopped watching because it's not good. It's rubbish.
The other thing I wanted to bring in, Sean, though, is my mum hates Doctor Who, so she won't be on the same channel at all, nowhere near it, right? But she saw, and this is what I mean. I know what you're saying. Doctor Who sank so low, but the casual viewers were flicking through the channels. So my mum was flicking through the channels the other day, and she saw Doctor Who in a skirt, as she said. And then she just looked at me going, is this what it is now? She made a judgment after 2 seconds. This is the danger of it. Yeah. Even when people are flicking through, they're going, oh my God, that's it. Done and dusted. Thanks, RTD. Cheers.
I think the main thing is I don't think people are laughing at the show. I think it's just flying under the radar. And you might get somebody who said, "Oh, what's on tonight? Oh, Doctor Who's on tonight. I'll watch the other side." It's not. Oh, I must see this I must see Doctor Who tonight. It's none of that now, and that's what's really changed.
So, in part of this debate about has Doctor Who waded into a very dangerous area thanks to RTD, where it's open to censorship. I've seen people in the thread saying, "Please, no, we don't need to censor it. Would there be a warning?" But the point is, it's going into territory I think is dangerous. The other one is, when we've all mentioned storylines tonight, which should be the main event, as I've just seen Paul Clark saying then, the Christmas episode Joy to the World, after 15 minutes, he nodded off. My dad said after 10 minutes he was bored with the Robot Revolution, and he defends Doctor Who. How many examples are we hearing of people saying, I was bored?
Yeah, I watched Joy to the World, and I ended up looking at my phone. So I wasn't engaged with the story.
Yeah. And then, of course, Sean, just to show you, of course, and remind everybody the reason why we're a little bit animated about present day Doctor Who is because of the way they talk to us. So, of course, David Tennant was slagging off he was actually slagging off the government of the time because he's an LGBT celebrity ally. We all know Shooty, our hero leader of Doctor Who at the moment, told us all to go and touch grass if we have a problem. You're not real fans if you don't accept the change in the Doctor. We should shut up. We don't exist. Shut the door behind you and get out of fandom, said Jinx Monsoon. And then we've got the male presenting stuff you will never understand. Oh, I am animated because I am getting told I'm the wrong sort of person to watch Doctor Who. And yet, I think they're the wrong type of people to write sci-fi because it's crap.
Yeah.
I mean,
it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to ask Jinx Monsoon, where are these extra viewers that you said were coming to the program?
Yeah. Well, where's all these extra viewers? Because he was RTD thought he was going for this new audience out there, and he could risk us dinosaurs disappearing. That's why we could all touch grass and shut our faces. Sean, I think you can tell tonight, because when people tell you to shut up, it's my way or the highway, and I'm going to put all this stuff, because I know Doctor Who better than you, who've been watching it since you were born and invested in the program. I know better than you, so shut up and go away. And when I see that, you get a backlash from everybody, don't you? Because you really arch them up. You get their back going. Because if you talk to people like that, you're going to get the backlash back, aren't you? You're going to get venom back.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you said that to me, you say, joking on you, who do you think you're talking to? Who do you know, like, we both do, well, we all flog our ways with podcasts and stuff. I want anybody to listen to I make my film podcast for everybody. It's not relevant to me who listens. I've no interest in their views, because I don't put my own politics into it, because it's not relevant. I'm talking about a film. They can. I'm not bothered. I want to make it so anybody can come and listen to it and anybody can enjoy it. And the idea, and I get. God, it's taken me 3.5 years to get to about 10,000 plays. Podcasts are difficult. You put a lot of effort into it. I don't understand. That's me, independent podcaster. I don't understand how people making shows anywhere don't understand. Like, you don't go out and criticize. You don't go out and criticize your customers, your audience. You don't do it. It just doesn't make any sense. Because look at this. I am bored. Look at not bored of this, but bored of this, because you know what? What we're not talking about, we've been talking for how long? Hour and a half, hour and 20 minutes. Why? We're not talking about, oh my God, Doctor Who's amazing. That's what we want to be on about. That's what we want to be passionate and get in. Oh my God. Did you see Midnight Part 2, Jeremy? Wasn't it class? No, we have to have this. Like,
Sean, isn't that the problem? He writes, right. Let me just put this in a nutshell. He has episodes, including with Mrs. Flood, where she breaks the fourth wall. Maestro breaks the fourth wall. We have breaking the fourth wall is the new Doctor Who. Break the fourth wall and you are taken out of the drama, aren't you? Let's be honest. On top of that, the political obvious messaging that's going on takes me out of the story. I'm trying for 45 minutes, because he writes very short episodes. I'm trying to get into the plot, and it might be very superficial, but every time I try, somebody talks to me and talks to the camera, or somebody goes and does a song and dance routine, takes me out of the drama, or I get a message on toxic masculinity and I'm thinking, you're having a laugh. And so all of a sudden, I can't get into the story. It's his fault.
Yeah, I mean, somebody should ask Russell T. Davis, what exactly is this show? Is it a science fiction show? Is it a science fantasy show? Is it a musical? Is it a soap opera? What is it, Russell? Because we don't know.
I think his answer now is, it's mine.
Yes.
Oh, mine.
Not for long. Not for long.
Well, yes, that's our other rumour, isn't it? You think, oh, please, can he leave now? He probably has,
I'll
actually.
put a £50 bet on it. I'll tell you that.
Now, whether you're for the Tories, for Reform, for Labour, for the Liberals, it doesn't matter. I actually don't think. I don't want politics that much into Doctor Who, but like she said, I'm not going to shut up. And it did look a bit funny, David Tennant, to be a white, straight man telling a black woman to shut up. Tennant is a rich, lefty, white male, celebrity blinded by ideology. Well, all I'll say, whether I agree with her politics or not, is good for her. But what's it got to do with our program? So the other thing I wanted to come into here, because everybody knows some of these are tried and tested arguments. Right, Verada See-Through, we're right on trend here. You remember the other day, if we get Doctor Who woke comments, we're doing it right. She says woke means the core of Doctor Who is about kindness, love, and doing the right thing. So therefore, if you say Doctor Who's woke, brilliant. Now, Jeremy, cast your mind across classic Who and all of Doctor Who. I don't know if I care about this kindness, love, and doing the right thing. I mean, yeah, that's a lot of kind of, I don't know, it's verbal blancmange, isn't it? It's like, bleh. But the Doctor woke thing, you know?
She's never watched Doctor Who, though, has she? She's never watched classic Who, and she's never watched any. Has she watched any old episodes?
Oh, do you think?
I mean, Gatwa said, "Oh, it's a policeman's box." No, it's not a policeman's box.
Oh,
it's a police call box, telephone call box.
Yeah.
Has he actually watched the show? Did he fully understand it?
I know.
No.
Jeremy, the irony is now I'm starting to think, RTD, have you ever watched the show? Because you seem to be looking at it in a way that none of us recognise. Ken's UK Adventures, kindness will be listening to fans and why they are leaving in disgust, not calling them racist or non-fans. But you might find Ken's UK Adventures, and I don't necessarily want to wade into politics, but our present government also might say that about certain people who they don't like what they say either. We're in a very strange place in Britain at the moment. And I do actually recommend everybody before bedtime reads 1984, because it's happening much more than I thought. When hate crime came in a few years ago, I know it's disappeared again, but it's not. It's a very strange area, isn't it? I thought, oh, the thought police, thought crime. There you go. Whoa, I was on it, like all of us were. But it's much more than that now. Much more than that now. And this Dr. Woke thing is a kind of... It's like a propaganda in itself, though, Sean.
No, I'm just wondering. Sorry, I know I'm derailing this. Where are the articles telling me this show's going to knock my bloody socks off? It's going to make you spill your tea with excitement. It's so damn good. Where are those? Because when you're getting into all this, doesn't matter where you stand on all these issues, the minute you start getting into all this, you've got to ask yourself, and people do, you've got to ask yourself why. Is it because it's just distraction, because you've got nothing else? You know you're flogging a dead horse, a rotten turkey. They ain't going to do anyone's Christmas or Thanksgiving for the Americans. It's not going to happen. It's not happening. So you've got to throw this because you've got nothing else. They should be making it like, what's this? How's half this stuff relevant? This is, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Because they're making it relevant. I mean, look at that first paragraph there. She relays, and everybody's seen this. I discussed it the other day, but it's just so relevant to this because while we want to talk about episode 3 of Earthshock, we also find that present Doctor Who, current Doctor Who, is in a political minefield. And if you decide as a fan to just disappear, I'm not saying what you did, Jeremy, I'm just saying you might have disappeared from watching it, but you still will give your voice to this program and talk about it. We're not walking away from the playing field here because we are Doctor Who fans and we understand the program. And if we think it's way out of order, believe it or not, as Sean's been saying, we'd prefer to just talk about the program. But if we are going to fight for the program, then we'll fight as well. But that first paragraph there, when she told us, Shooty was like, look at us. We get to be in the TARDIS. We're going to pee off so many people, she laughed, before explaining how much positive fan responses there were. That's why a lot of us are getting riled, because they are sitting there in two brilliant jobs. Doctor Who is massive in one respect, isn't it? It's global. And now we can argue about ratings, but there's a lot of money attached to it, and it's got a lot of kudos in other ways. But for those two leads of the program to say, let's laugh at the people out there who go, oh God, it's two people of color and we're winning. Wow. Honestly, are you really going there?
Why, if you're an actor, would you actually want to pee off your audience? I don't understand that.
Because they're Jeremy, I think I get it now. Because RTD, Shooty, Verada clearly disrespect their audience, or the ones they think are the wrong sort.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't get it. I mean, as an actor, you would want many people to see yourself in a production, whether it's on the theatre or radio or TV or whatever, film, not to disengage the audience and say, you know, I only want a particular audience to see my theatre production. You know, they're just not thinking right. You know.
But isn't it also arrogant to say, but my politics are correct and you lot are bad people, so I'm happy to disrespect you?
But the whole point is that politics don't come into account on this. If you're working, otherwise you bring the whole thing into disrepute.
But you see, this is it. I've listed an episode. I'm now going very current. This is this last week. When we're trying to launch season 2 and we're trying to make sure all that marketing, all that hype, all that money spent on season 2 isn't wasted, and they open their gobs going, they'll probably say we're two people of colour. Dear God, are we at that level now in 2025? I sometimes think Shooting Verada need an actual history lesson, that the planet's actually moved on from wherever they think we are. They think we're still in the swamp, I think, those two. It's so insulting. Some of us have brains out there. Some of us actually had careers where we've been involved with looking after kids and people. And we're not horrible people. But the way you dismiss us and disrespectful is an absolute disgrace. And we've all read about John Nathan. We've all read about John Nathan Turner would pull people. You know, you can only go so far, but you can't imperil the program. And John Nathan Turner understood that explicitly. Sorry, Sean.
No, it's all right. For me, though, like, it's like us doing this right now. We, apart from the comments underneath, we don't get the opinions, or we don't get the personal political views or the inclinations of the people watching this. It shouldn't affect the output of our responses, or the output of the quality that you bring to this in your preparation and all that kind of thing, in your editing, etc. Like, it shouldn't come into it. Like, if you've got the conviction of your the strength of your own convictions on what you believe in, why do you need to fire off at people that don't agree with you? Like, if there are people who are going to be, like I said before, if there are people out there who care about the demographic of the TARDIS, ignore them. They're awful little people who you know, if that's all they care about, they see that demographic and don't agree with it. We've got things in place to deal with that. Why you would try and promote a show like this, I just don't understand. Said it in the last couple of streams. I don't understand what you're doing this for. Why aren't you just telling us how amazing how amazing this show is?
Yeah.
Like,
sorry.
We can work it out ourselves. We can work it out.
Yeah.
I'm done. Sorry.
One bad interview from an actor or producer, whatever, can totally ruin it, as we found out, as Disney found out with Snow White.
Yeah, and actually, a lot of the thread I'm mentioning, Rachel Ziegler, and quite rightly, I'll go back to Gerald Ratner when he said his jewelry, it was crap, and everybody stopped buying
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly. I mean, this is what I can't understand. It's almost like, you know, I'll get a gun and shoot myself in the foot. You know, attitude.
Yeah. But where's the minder? I mean, we said the same about Snow White, didn't we? Where were the minders? Because these, you know, we all know you'll get an actor at the Oscars or the BAFTAs and they'll waffle on about world peace, you know, the same old trite stuff that you get. By the way, David Tennant at the BAFTAs this year had form again, didn't he? He decided that the evil in the world was Donald Trump's hair and didn't mention Putin, President Xi, didn't mention the Iranian president
Yes.
didn't mention anybody apart from the very recently elected American president's hairstyle. I mean, David Tennant, really?
He said he wasn't going to.
You've got to ask
and then,
yourself.
of course, obviously he did.
Yeah.
You've got to ask yourself who are the ones who are blinkered, living in their own world. Is it us? Or is it us? Is it really us? Is it the audience that are the blinkered ones who won't look at anybody else's, won't even consider anybody else's point of view? Because that's what it's what you've got to. Are they the blinkered ones? Who knows?
The proof of the pudding is in the eating, and that means that you look at the ratings. And the ratings are telling you everything you need to know.
And this is what's so funny, because they've kind of covered their back here. It's like marking your own homework. They're saying, well, if the ratings are low, we don't measure it in the same way anymore. It's lower because we're going for a better quality of one individual who watches it. Their count, if it's a virtuous type of person, they count for 5 bigots. I mean, is this how we're doing it now? Because their argument and the way they operate seems to be, well, we don't like that. You're a certain type of Doctor Who fan we don't like. So bye-bye. Meanwhile, oh, you're a new Doctor Who fan. Hello, you must have the right flags and virtues. Come on in. But they're not bringing enough in. But it's okay, we don't measure it that way anymore. Okay, then, do you measure it on audience appreciation? Because that's tanked as well. Oh, yeah, but we've stopped doing that. No, you haven't. We've seen the figures. Oh, all right. Don't you understand, Brendan? It's all about streaming now. How many people streamed last Saturday? 91,000. So it's not all about streaming. You've got it wrong again. There's no family viewing anymore. Oh, Britain's Got Talent got double your figure. Are you sure about that? I mean, every time they try and say, but it's not like that anymore. We understand TV. Really? You think you understand TV more than the people who actually consume it? I'm not too sure. You're telling us what to think.
Do you know what we need to consider as well, though? And I think we have done this before, and you've probably done it in your streams. What we need to also consider is that everything we're bringing up here, with the quotes from the people in the show, although Telelive use their social media, so fair enough. But these are like media outlets, so they might go. I know Radio Times is a weird one, but they might go. They want those kind of like those headlines that are going to grab people or annoy people or get people to click, that kind of clickbait thing. So they're going to want that. But then that's for the actors and the showrunner and all that kind of the organization to be like, we need to be savvy about what we say, about what we put out there, how we discuss our audience. There's got to be that understanding there, to be honest. It's just, I don't know.
But where he says, I've no time for the reactions from these online warriors. Well, these online warriors are your viewers, mate.
Yes.
So,
they were your viewers.
Well, they were. Yes, you're right. Yeah.
But he's crafted them into warriors by, like I said, being so venomous and exclusive and divisive in his talk, pretending to be inclusive, and then to put into our prize program nonsense dialogue that won't stand the test of history. Hasn't even got through this last week, really. And because I really think I'm not an online warrior or anything. I'm more of a kind of the boy in the Emperor's New Clothes who just saying you're naked. It's just not very good.
We are the critics, and we critique the show. That's not online warriors.
Well, Jeremy, let's put it even another way. We are actually the fans. We are actually the viewers, and
license payers.
The customers are always right. What happened to that one? I mean,
they're not reading the room. They're not reading the room. If you or I, Brendan, were doing our respective podcasts and we were getting the same feedback of 90% of the people watching it saying it's too structured, I'm joking. Or my show, it's too unstructured. Lack of structure. You would take account of that. If it's the way you want to do things, fine. But if the way you want to do things has those comments coming and then your listens or plays are absolutely tanking, you have to look at that and go, looking at this.
Although
they just won't. Fingers in the
ears.
ears.
I just bring in what Raymond Williams is saying here because it's interesting. Because I have had a kind of horrible suspicion about TV producers nowadays about are they being extremely cynical? Because, I know how many seconds or minutes I need to get a view constituted on this, but you can't do repeat. If you watch me once, I'll only ever get one view. If you watch me 20 times, it'll still be one view. Now, the BBC and ITV, they know the games are different for them. And as Raymond Williams says here, is it more about online clicks rather than TV ratings? Doctor Who is talked about as part of the culture wars. Nobody's discussing the actual story. Admittedly, there isn't much of a story to talk about. Is RTD more bothered about just getting headlines? Because headlines in his world is his virtue has been stroked. His ego has been stroked. All the lovies will go, oh, well done. Well done. It's a bit like Rosa. Whether that was a good episode of Doctor Who or not, because I didn't think it was very good regarding it being Doctor Who, because Doctor Who did nout. It was an interesting episode in history, but I don't know how it fitted the Doctor Who formula. But everybody was trying to give that awards. Oh, amazing, amazing. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. No, it wasn't even a good episode of Doctor Who. The Doctor sat on a bus and watched. It was the most passive thing I've ever seen. But this is what we're into now. And maybe Raymond Williams, you're right. RTDs may be sus that as long as the program's getting talked about, good or bad, that's all we need. We don't even need good ratings now. If it's in the headlines every day and they say Doctor Who is trying to be virtuous, Doctor Who has a message, that's maybe all he wants to get his next job around all the media lovies.
I think actually, if they just had one viewer watching the program, they'd still say it was fantastic anyway. I don't think it would bother them, because at the end of the day, they get paid for doing it, and they're on to the next job, whatever that job is.
Because he's kind of twisting this here as if he's been an amazing warrior himself. The showrunner says he's no time for complaints from online warriors. You may find most of us, if he wants to call us online warriors, where else do we have a voice? Please tell me, because the BBC don't listen to complaints. How do we, as fans, get to say, no, that's out of order, if you don't mind? Where?
We vote with our feet. We vote with our feet. We turn the bloody thing off. We don't turn it on.
Or we also actually say, hold on, in a country where you want freedom of speech, RTD, great progressive that he is, I just want to have my voice. So I'll start a YouTube channel, podcast, whatever, and I will share my voice. And if people like what we're saying, they'll join us and we'll magnify that voice. That isn't that how it works? So we're not online warriors. We are just saying we have a voice too. Now, if they don't like it, then that's more of them being a mug. Of course, he says, someone always brings up matters of diversity. Yeah, you. And there are online warriors accusing us of diversity and wokeness and involving messages and issues. Just for a second, lads, I'm not making this up. How many people in your life have you talked to and met, and you've never even asked them these questions, but they go on about all the adverts? They go on about how these strange families that they're presenting adverts, that you might have a Chinese child with a black mother and a white father, and this. It's a bit the world peace again with Miss World. We're trying to sell an ideal, and we know the program makers and the advertisers are doing this. It's ticking some box somewhere, but you're not selling us the reality of the country everybody else is living in.
Well, we know we're a multicultural country, but we don't need to be told this by every programmer producer about this message. I mean, that's talking down to the audience, and I'm afraid that's what Russell T Davies is doing. Really, he's talking down to the audience, and that's why people are just switching off. And maybe it may well be that is probably one of the problems for linear television as well.
Yeah, I think linear television.
The
only reason I think linear television might be dying is because, as you were both saying earlier, it's fallen into this kind of bland formula, whatever's safe.
I hardly watch it now.
No,
I hardly watch. I spend most of my time on YouTube.
Yeah.
finding interesting things that I want to watch, not just waiting for, switching channels and thinking, oh, there might be an interesting program on this side or whatever.
And so you see, this is the great listener, the great wise one. Because, I thought the definition of a bigot in some ways was that they're close-minded, they're very narrow-minded and all the rest of it. Meanwhile, the great progressive here, RTD, I have no time for online warriors. I don't have a second to bear, because what you might call diversity, I just call an open door. Oh,
Fine.
my God.
Fine. Okay. That's absolutely fine. It goes without saying to 99% of the people out there, no one thinks like this, mate. You're paid a hell of a lot of money. A hell of a lot of money. You've probably been paid to do this job. What most of us will only get paid for 10 years worth of work. So do you know what? Make a good show, put it on the TV, sell it, even if you're lying, even if you know this isn't your best work. Lie, be a professional, put it on the TV. If they watch one series and go, you've lost it, mate, this isn't doing very well, listen to them, try and rectify it. Unfortunately, you've filmed it back to back. But, you're very, and this, I'm not using this in a political sense, but as a person, I mean, we all are in some ways being here in this country, but, you've got a lot of privilege. You've got, you're very well off. You're doing okay for yourself. I know you've had tragedies in your personal life, which is none of my business. You're doing well for yourself. Look at where you've gone. Look at the shows you've done. You've had a lot of success. Why are you needing to be like this? Why are you needing? I don't understand. I don't get why you just sell your product, sell what you've got. Do you not believe in it? Do you not believe it's as good as you think it is? What?
Oh,
I don't understand. I don't understand.
Why wasn't he like this in 2005, 2006 onwards when he was producing the show in terms of diversity? Why is it that we've noticed the change?
Yeah.
Sorry?
I wouldn't be watching this show if it wasn't for him. I'm in debt. I never would have found Doctor Who. My dad didn't watch the old stuff. He thought it was very cheap towards the end because and he never really watched it. Star Trek was the thing that was on. I never would have got into Doctor Who without that. And through that, I got into some of his other shows. And I know you talk about the soap opera, and I've watched. I get that, but I love that 2005, 2010 era. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, well, you can say that, but when you look closely back, some things go wrong. For example, in our detox just today, we talked about Planet of the Dead. Now, it wasn't editorially chosen by me. One of my detoxers said, let's do Planet of the Dead. So I did so. And I have to say, as soon as I watched that again, I thought, do you know what? The problems were there a lot earlier than RTD2, because that special was a waste of money. That special had a very, very skimpy plot.
It wasn't perfect.
No, that's you being kind.
Midnight was perfect.
Midnight was really good. Really good. But you see, tomorrow, Lux will be broadcast. I've seen one review. Some people were talking about it in the thread, that we're going to be in 1950s Miami, and we're going to reference segregation. We're also going to have a dig, or a savage dig, at the Doctor Who fans, which is going to be quite. And have you seen the photographs of the 3 fans?
Yes.
How will we tell?
Yes.
How will we be able to tell? How will we be able to tell?
And Mr. Ring-a-Ding. Ta-da!
Yes. So, is everybody full of? You see, this is it. Is it? I feel as though we're just hitting race a bit and trans a bit, and then back to race, and then.
Yeah.
Are there
that's
no
what it is.
Issues? Are there no other issues?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Russell T Davies cannot write a straightforward science fiction story without bringing in the issues.
I mean, for example, go on.
I've got a question. Where are the shows on TV talking about people struggling with bills, with work, with lack of work, where are those? It's strange. It's strange, isn't it? Where are those? Where are those?
Well,
I
Usually
can't
be
see
in
them.
soap operas. Usually be in soap operas like Coronation Street or EastEnders or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's look for a second.
Well,
let's look for a second.
They're not.
Let's look for a second.
I don't watch them now.
The last season, right? So, for example, Space Babies referenced refugees and immigrants, right? Even for a second, as well as poo. Devil's Card was doing the pronoun thing again. And obviously, I think was just proudly saying we've got a drag queen playing a male-female character. Then we had Boom, which basically was anti-religion and anti-capitalist and anti-arms industry. 73 Yards, in some ways, was joking about the Welsh being a bit nationalist or a bit parochial at one point, wasn't it, in the pub? Dot and Bubble was all about white supremacists and ageist youngsters, and maybe was making a reference to, everybody on their phone. And then as you go through, and Rogue, of course, was all about cosplayers. Basically that. It's just froth. So are these the issues that we should be seeing in Doctor Who? Because when I list them, I'm thinking these are not the issues of everyday people, if you want to do that. But what are the issues for the human race? Overpopulation, maybe? I don't know. I just think it's picking the wrong subjects. Yeah. Because the other subjects are too hard, Jeremy.
I mean, I only watched the first 2 episodes, so I can't comment on the others, other than the reviews I've seen. But the reviews didn't really. Well, I didn't need to watch it because I got all the information from the reviews.
You see, but this is it. I mean, yeah. Sean, am I missing something? I mean, overpopulation, I think, is going to be a big sci-fi and reality check for the human race. And the next one is, and we've done in sci-fi before, human colonies on other planets, but that is going to be one of the next big issues, which is it right? Is it moral for the human race to basically wreck a planet? I mean, God, aren't we like the Ruin? Aren't we just like some of the enemies that are in Doctor Who? And then we just want to go to another planet and ruin that one. There's a lot of great sci-fi things that could be shown or discussed. But instead, we're talking about whether somebody's pronoun is right or whether it's diverse enough in the TARDIS.
I mean, you could have, I mean, I'm not a writer, but, you could have a series that's all about division, but set it on a different planet and show what happens when people are divided. It doesn't have to be this. People can extrapolate ideas that they see and apply it to issues in their own life, because if it didn't, TV never would have worked. Films never would have worked. It never would have worked before. Books never would have worked if people couldn't read them, empathize with the characters. I'm watching The West Wing at the minute. I'm not American. I'm not a politician. I ain't got a clue about half of it, but I can watch it and I can look at it and it's balanced. And yes, as someone said in the chat the other day, yes, it is. What's the word? It's very optimistic. It's optimistic. It's got that late 90s, early 2000s. Do you remember optimism when we thought that we would get past all this? We thought, a bit like Star Trek Next Generation, when we thought we'd get past all this. That's the kind of optimism I want. I don't mind dark sci-fi, but I like optimistic as well, that we're going to get past this.
But is this the issue? I mean, I was kind of hinting at it earlier. Is this the vogue now in TV making? They think. You said 90s was maybe more optimistic, but now we're in such a place that I feel as though the audience are there to be. It's a bit like a lecture. We have to have messages that are subliminal, in the composition of the cast. We need to see in the dialogue certain things, and we need a message by the end of each drama. We are all attending via our license fee a glorified lecture, which is not entertainment.
That's the reality of it at this moment in time.
And as I said at the beginning, who said the people who are making the programs are right in the views they're trying to present? Hence, I mentioned the Star Beast, and the Supreme Court might just slightly challenge what's going on there. Do we need another episode about racism in the 1950s tomorrow? called Lux. We've only got 43 minutes. 43 minutes to do an adventure to no doubt sow some seeds for later on in the narrative arc, and also to reference segregation in America. Again, like Adolescence does 4 episodes, if you're going to do a very worthy topic, do you want to maybe make it episodic and maybe have it over 2 or 3 episodes? I just think, other than that, it's box ticking.
I think it does need the going back to two-part episodes with a really good cliffhanger, and that's something they may have to consider next time round if they produce a season 3 or 4 or 5, which is, I think, somewhat doubtful.
Well, RTD's got loads of ideas. He's told us he's got ideas. Yeah. He's grifting, isn't he? I've got ideas for season 3, 4, and 5. I mean, that scares me to death.
It does me as well.
You haven't had ideas for season 1 and 2 yet. Wild Blue Yonder was the Wild Blue Chasm of no plot. Monsters he couldn't be bothered to give a name to. And then this stupid, contrived nonsense. Everybody who watches Doctor Who knows the TARDIS was never very good at steering and navigating. That was part of the joke. But he could get it on the microsecond to chuck the fraud Donna out and get the right Donna back before she was frazzled, cremated. Oh, really? That's not the... I don't watch Doctor Who to see a cheap version of Superman. I watch Doctor Who because he's got flaws. The TARDIS has got flaws. Sometimes he doesn't know how to steer the blooming thing. Sometimes it breaks. That was the whole essence. That's why people said it was so nice and British and quirky, because, you know, you never had episodes like this properly in Star Trek, where basically Captain Kirk doesn't know how to drive the ship. And, you know, it's broken. You know, it's classic. This is what it should be doing. He doesn't know where he's going. And the TARDIS is like any piece of machinery, and he hasn't got the rule book totally. It's a bit like Chameleon. It's going to have little disasters and moments. I think it's fab. And like I said, one of the most exciting things about Doctor Who for me was that moment they landed on another planet and the Doctor didn't have... I hate it when the Doctor now knows everything about the universe. Oh, yes, I was here in 1972. He did it a little bit in Classic Who, but I love it when he hasn't got a clue. And I mean, within
it's like when you look back at... Sorry,
keep going.
It's like when you look back at... like, you know, RTD's first run, and there's episodes that I watched back then that I didn't think an awful lot of, like Planet of the Ood. Thought it was a bit daft, but then you watch it back, and there's bits in that where, yeah, the Doctor tries to bring up subjects, but Donna will pull him back, and the show's lost the ability to pull itself up. There's a bit where because obviously they're talking about the Oods are essentially slaves; they've been enslaved at that point, and Donna says, hang on, we don't mention slaves. And she says, we don't have slaves. And the Doctor says to her, quote, who do you think makes your clothes? And she says to him, oh, yeah. She fires straight back at him and says, oh, yeah, that's why you bring humans along, is it? Not to show the wonder of the universe, to take cheap shots. And he goes, sorry. It's lost that ability. I know it's a bit clunky, but it's lost that ability to pull itself up and know when they were going too far. And also, why is RTD writing so many episodes now? He's barely... like this series, I mean, it might be for worse, but he's writing them all. Yeah, well, he should have edited them down a bit, because we all have lots of ideas. I have ideas on the toilet, doesn't mean they're good.
RTD's version of what is an idea is really just on the back of a postage stamp, because his great idea to launch Doctor Who again was to do a creature that was made from a bogey. That was his great sci-fi concept. But he thought it was worth spending Disney money on, right? That his rationale, because he had a message about immigration at the end. That's in essence what an idea is. It's basically half a vision of a world or a thing, but I'll have a political message attached.
It's all half-baked, isn't it? It's all half-baked. It's a great big turkey, there's a pun, and you stick your thermometer in it, you're probing it to find out if it's cooked all the way through, and it's bloody frozen rock hard in the middle. If you look at it, it looks cooked. It looks a decent episode. But the minute you probe it, the minute you pick it apart, I watched the first episode, Robot Revolutions, or as I wish I was, Vodka Revolutions. Watching that, I watched that twice, and it fell to bits on the rewatch. It absolutely fell to bits, plot-wise. And I'm no editor. I don't have a clue.
You're the wrong type of fan.
Well, I didn't watch it, so I can't really say. But
Sean, he's the wrong type of fan saying that, isn't he? You just missed what was going on there, Sean. Maybe you're that type of masculine, because it was about toxic masculinity. If you didn't see it, Sean, I'm not listening to you. And of course,
Brendan,
I'm exercising.
I did drama at school. I did drama in secondary school. I took some bloody stick, I'll tell you. I took some stick. Right. So don't throw that one at me. I took some stick, mate. Telling you now.
Oh.
Sorry, I'm sorry, chat.
Listen,
I'm being very arty. I'm bringing my own issues to the table, Anna.
Me and Jeremy will have had issues as Doctor Who fans in way back. I mean, let's face it. I mean, Jeremy was such a popular thing to mention at school.
But yes, indeed, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, if you had to like football. If you didn't like football and rugby and all of that, then you got a good kicking.
And RTD understood that to a degree, because there's that element in Queer as Folk where one of the lads is a Doctor Who fan and puts Genesis of the Daleks on, but that would have killed any date. I mean, can you imagine it? Oh, you've got to see this bit with Davros. What can you imagine? I mean, kill a date dead. But I mean, honestly, so he understood how Doctor Who was perceived. But he's doing it to the program in another way now. He's making it something that people go, "Oh, do you watch that? Really? Man in a dress? Do you what all that woke stuff? Really? You watch that?" And I do get that, Jeremy and Sean, by the way, in Thread. Oh, I get that. What, you do a YouTube channel? I go, yeah, it's just a hobby after retiring, right? What's it on? And I say sci-fi at first to try and. I'm thinking, how interested are people? And then suddenly they keep digging, and I'm going, well, about Doctor Who. And then straight away they're going, really? And they're going, yeah. And then I'm thinking, I am actually.
Still on?
I do mention it at work, and I do get some funny looks.
Now, Raymond Williams. Sorry,
mate.
Raymond Williams, really good call out. It is one of my favourite stories, I must admit, Caves of Androzani. Was all about toxic masculinity. It still managed to entertain. Yes, the point is, I don't think it ever used the phrase. It was there if you wanted to see it. It was clear that most of the characters were vile, but it was brilliant to watch. And actually, Peter Davison's Doctor character stood out a mile, because most of the others, they should have killed each other, and I think most of them did. But I liked the Doctor's character in that. It was his story. And I liked the woman, what was her name? And she was always she was like the PA. And then in the end, and she got her revenge in the end. And I liked that character. But yeah, you're right, Raymond Williams. That was good writing. Robert Williams. Why am I saying it? Robert Holmes. And yes, I think a good story, you can see the themes, but the theme may not be mentioned or used in some clunky dialogue. And by the way, that was 4 episodes as well. It was world building. You could get into the characters, and there was a lot more going on besides. And of course, do we want on TV in any story to see likable characters all the time? No.
But I wouldn't have analysed Caves of Androzani in that way as toxic masculinity. I was just watching it as because it was great entertainment.
Yeah, and the Doctor's going to die, so this is what you wanted. And I mean, yes, there was coercive control in it, because he took the milk from the Queen Bat, and I don't think he got consent. So I mean, it's all about toxic masculinity and coercive control, and the issue of consent. Sean, you say I can see what's going on. I'm right on, Sean.
Thing about Yeah. The thing about the thing about writing though is surely like you want people to talk about what you're writing. You want because if this is truly what they want, surely they want people to dive into it and discuss it. But I know I've said this a million times before, but it's so like skimmed over the top and so shallowly went into. That's not a word. That you just there's no depth to it, so you can't get into it. So all that's happening is people like you've just done it there. You end up laughing at subjects that really, and I'm not saying you're being disrespectful, but you end up kind of like thinking, what the hell about subjects that really need to be dealt with the respect that they need to be dealt with the respect they should be.
Well, they make television producers and writers make television programs to be entertaining and to get the ratings. That's their first priority, I think.
Yeah.
Don't necessarily say that, oh yes, we want our program to be talked about for the next 30, 40 years.
While Raymond Williams, and this is why we love the thread. I mean, I started where I started, but, like a good discussion, you go into different areas of Doctor Who. Now, Paul Holgate has taken this up, and I have to say it's a good point. And I like to be, in a way, you're challenged by what you've said, and I've said it today. I hate the fourth wall being broken. I hate too much messaging because I'm taken out of the story. And yet I've said Caves of Androzani is one of my favourite stories. And yes, Paul Holgate, Morgus does talk, it seems, at the camera. How come that was acceptable? It seems, in my head, that doesn't like to be inconsistent. Jeremy, how come I've accepted that? I remember at the time, I thought, what's going on here?
Well, I thought he was just talking to himself. I mean, a lot of people do talk to themselves.
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah, and it was maybe a Graham Harper just kind of, it looks quite direct rather than just sitting there playing with his chair.
Well, the director should have said, which was, what's his name? Can't think of his name now. But he should have said, oh, yes, don't directly look at the camera. Just look off the camera, perhaps, slightly away from the camera.
Well, of course, as Duncan says, Androzani was about a good man in a terrible situation and he dies at the end. Classic sacrifice. Our regeneration stories should be all about the Doctor, but so should nearly every blooming story. Sometimes, I must admit, I did have that little sense in the back of my head thinking, I'm looking forward to this regeneration story because this is when he really is the hero. What peril will he be in? He, rather than his companion.
Graham Harper. Graham Harper was the director.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
I do sometimes think, why can't the Doctor be this heroic more often in some of the Doctor Who stories?
Exactly.
Not Space Jesus. Anyway, but no, Duncan, you've got it wrong about Caves of Androzani. Let me just put you right. It was the story, in essence, was about the suffocating, oppressive presence of a male, and the Queen Bat had no rights. That's what the story was. It was a cover. It was all about women being second class and the Queen Bat. Oh, you've got to see it, Sean. Honestly, this Queen Bat.
I know. Honestly, right. It sounds good. That's no, but people are putting in the chat about these ideas and about these episodes and what happens in them. And I'm like, I've got to watch that. Like I asked Jamie when I was in the chat one time what's your favorite show. And it's Talons of Wing Chang, which I'm going to be reviewing at some point. And I was like, all right, done. So I bought it. I bought the DVD because I'm old-fashioned. I bought the DVD and I will be watching it. I'm waiting to watch it near the time. And people tell you these ideas and tell you not ideas, about the episodes and what they're about. And it makes me want to search them out and watch them. Modern Doctor Who, does it do that? Because it doesn't for me. When I have to explain to the lads at work, I explained the plot of... not Vodka Revolution, Robot Revolutions to the lads at dinner when we were sat having our cup of tea, and they looked at me like I had 6 heads. And you have to say when you're describing the plot of Doctor Who to people now, you have to go, no, seriously, I'm going to tell you what the plot is, and I'm not taking the mick. I genuinely, seriously.
But this is the problem that people go, and what, you still watch it, or you do a YouTube show about it? Why don't you just?
Yeah, I watch it because I go on a YouTube channel. That's it. That's the only reason I'm watching it.
I'm trying to say, I mean, look, I did this as soon as I retired, but I didn't think at that point. I kind of thought, oh, RTD's coming back. Thank God for that. After the disaster. I didn't think I was going to be live on these streams suddenly getting really triggered and angry about RTD, but we are where we are. It's happened fast.
I thought
can't
it had a
believe him.
chance. I really did,
So
I
did
really
I.
thought he would come back. I thought he would come back. I didn't think it would be amazing, but after watching, some of his more recent shows, I thought he's going to come back before he actually, started telling us, before he started saying anything. I thought he's going to come back. I think he's going to put it on an even keel because he was only meant to do a special in a series, wasn't he? Something like that. Or was it just a special? Anyway, he was only meant to come back for a short amount of time. And I thought he's going to come back. He's going to right the ship. And he's brought Tennant back. They're going to right the ship. The 10th Doctor will have come back for some interesting reason about change and how you can be and maybe they'll use it to basically say, ignore what's gone on. Like, this is the proper Doctor Who. Because RTD was quoted, wasn't he? Saying, this scene's lost a lot of its worth now. The other million Doctors could have turned up. And you thought, okay, maybe he gets it. Maybe he's with us here. Maybe he's going to come back and set it on an even keel and leave it healthier and save it again. Maybe he's got exactly. Exactly, garbage. Exactly. The minute that we saw that, a lot of people went, oh dear.
Oh dear.
Because and remember,
oh dear, yes.
And remember, the way he explained that was in absolute terms. That's the way it is now. He knew people would go, what? Why? Why is Davros different? Why are you wrecking and retconning everything I've seen before as a fan? Why are you doing that? And of course, he dismissed it. He just said, that's the way it is now. That's the way we're going forward. It's wrong. And you're thinking, wow, I hope you've really thought this through. You are just rewriting. Now, I've gone on about breaking the fourth wall, but one way, which I think is disgusting, is you break the fourth wall to me in the past. So basically, if I sit down and watch Genesis of the Daleks, it's in the back of my head now that Davros isn't really like this anymore because he's going to change it. And so why am I watching it? Because Davros isn't like that. Because he's different now, which spoils the blooming episode. That's what gets me angry, because he's actually, as I said, he's thrown a time turd across Classic Who, and he's ruined it. I know.
And the turd was curled right around the top of the TARDIS, and every TARDIS. I think,
I agree with you, Brendan. I agree. Yeah.
It was just
sorry. I was just saying I agree with Brendan on that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a selfish version of how he's showrunning, isn't it? It's like he can't just write some crap Doctor Who and face the consequences. Oh no, he has to just graffiti all over classic Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And that's when I think it's quite sinister, Machiavellian, unfair, almost cruel to the fans who've bought all the Blu-rays, invested in loads of things. And then, I've got Davros on the shelf over there. And so does RTD. Go back to that documentary. When he'd written all this, he's got Davros from the character options on his shelf.
Oh, he's still behind him. He's still behind him. I watched a podcast called, because I actually did some preparation for this in case Brendan was having a lazy day. I'm joking. I actually watched RTD. I don't know what I was thinking. RTD, recently it's only come out. He went on that hashtag show on YouTube, and the host Jessica, it's about 9 minutes long. It's she did a good job, to be fair. And you can see it behind him because it's this is going to make me sound like such a pleb. Do you know that it's the Dalek one where it's the white with the gold bubbles? That sounds awful. With like the shell head on top. It's that Davros, isn't it? From
Remembrance of the Daleks.
Remembrance. Yes, I've seen it. Sorry, everyone. Sorry. Yeah, it's that one. It's still on his shelf. It's behind him. You can see it. It's slightly to his right, so it's still there. So it's like, did you consider taking that down because you had problems with that? And a lot of people on the production team had a lot of problems with that. It was not the point. I'm being facetious, but wasn't the point that Davros was an evil genius? He was a genius. He overcame his physical limitations to be a genius. Yes, he used them for evil. He was evil. He was abhorrent. He wanted to commit, genocide with the Daleks and all that kind of thing. And you just think, you can see something's horrific, but still, admire the genius. You don't, I don't understand I don't know what. And as soon as that we saw that, we thought, oh no.
I always remember I made a point when I was still kind of thinking, oh well, RTD. I think my first ever stream was the review of The Giggle, right? So at that point, I wasn't happy about this. Yes, I wasn't happy about Destination Scarrow, of course, and I wasn't, happy about Star Beast. Wild Blue Yonder, I just thought was a waste of an episode. So I'm still kind of okay. I remember when we did the Giggle review that Hugh, one of our original panelists, actually said, Brendan, I've never really liked how RTD basically doesn't really have a plot. He just has a narrative arc. Everything's a sacrificial lamb for the narrative arc. So, Bad Wolf and all the rest of it. And as somebody's just mentioned in the thread about, Bad Wolf graffitiing across that season, just like he's graffitied all across Classic Who. It kind of gives away that he's not... If he's going to change all these ideas in Doctor Who and change it so much, please have put the effort in. And it's a brilliant story that actually changes it. We all know Timeless Children was a problem because it was so badly written. Never mind a bad idea. It was just badly written. So it wasn't worth it. If it had been an amazing story like Deadly Assassin, you might have bought into it. Might have. But it was so badly written, you thought, I'm not having that. I'd rather you dump the episode than actually have to with that. Deadly Assassin, different game. I mean, Robert Holmes invented the Matrix and everything. There was loads going on there. And of course, the Master, we accepted had come to the end of these 12 regenerations. So much new canon was invented in Deadly Assassin, but it was so well written, so well acted, so well directed that how dare anybody say that needs to be erased? But you can erase a lot of what's been on recently.
Can I just say, Brendan, when you said earlier about you introducing, your podcast and being a bit worried about it, you should tell people that, oh, no, it's okay. My first review was The Giggle, and they should go, well, that's all right then. Sorry, I couldn't resist. I could not resist. I hated that bit. I hated that bit. And he had a friend called Clara. I was like, what is this? And I like Neil Patrick Harris. He's good, but I was like, what are you doing? Oh, dear me.
No, you're right. When you think of where we came to this. I know. Ship and Shaw, hello. RTD has always dished out rubbish scripts. He was a good producer and publicist 20 years ago, but his scripts are always bad. You see, I know, Sean, earlier you've mentioned some of the early ones, and he brought you to Doctor Who and that era. But I said Planet of the Dead. Waters of Mars, I enjoyed. Planet of the Dead, not. I know we'll always say Midnight. Midnight does an awful lot of hard work, I have to say. Just park Midnight for a second. We've ticked it off. What about Fear Her? I mean,
do you know what though? Do you know what? I'd take 7 Fear Hers over the next 7 weeks. That's how far we've fallen. Mate. Like we had some crackers. There was Turn Left. There was, Eccleston's first run, Father's Day, which I liked. I know some people think it's a bit too melodramatic. I love that. No, exactly. I loved again. I was going to say it's not his, but Dr. Dance's Moffats. I'm not helping my but he picked those people, and I just don't. Who knows? I mean, the thing with that first run of RTD is, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't, but it did a lot right, and it brought a lot of people in. And it's and like somebody said in the chat earlier, I forgot to mention, had said, "Can we get RTD on?" I mean, I've no doubt Brendan would love that. I'd love that because I would love to say, can I just say, as much as I haven't enjoyed this part, I'm not enjoying these first, this run at all. But, thank you for that run. You got me into this amazing show. But unfortunately, it's tinged with a heavy heart because you've come back and I'd love to ask him, what was your aim with this? Because it feels it comes across like it's
He has said enough. I'll be honest with you. And I think some of my saloons last year tried to psychoanalyze him. He did say he thinks in 2024, we are in dark times. and a lot of children and teenagers are suffering from mental health issues. So they need a doctor who's in touch with himself. I think he got slightly confused in the translation, and it turned into a doctor who touches himself. No, basically he switched it.
Jesus Christ.
They didn't have mental...
I can go back to this because it came up in something he was talking about in my research, actually. So from the Radio Times, it's a new article. I think it's been out within the last couple of days. Quote, I remember the first time Shooty did it, cried, which is in the church on Ruby Road. He thought Ruby had vanished, been erased from time and space, which was astonishing. And he turned around in the studio and gave us that performance, which is absolutely spellblinding. You don't tell an actor whether to cry or not to cry. Not an actor of that stature. I don't know who he's talking about. So they've got that in there, and they wanted to push the show into places it had never been before. But what was wrong with taking it back to what it used to be? That would have been better. But never mind. It is what it is.
Well, it'd be interesting to see what the ratings are going to be for Lux.
Yes, well, the detoxes day, it was 1.8. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, you're torn still, though. I mean, you don't want your Doctor Who favourite programme to be torn apart. Because actually, if we all think it needs a rest, we are only saying rest. The trouble is there's no guarantees or insurance policies on this. It may not come back. It may just be seen as that tired old thing and nobody ever comes back to it. So we've got to be careful on that score. But if this series tanks Doctor Who, I mean, absolutely tears the ratings apart and it just tanks, it will never be brought back. The way this series ends, if it does end, if it's really bad, it's never coming back. So we've got to be careful. Well, it's not about us being careful. It's about RTD being careful.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with us. What we've done is the way it's been produced, and we don't have any control over that. So it's not our fault. But as I think personally, the show will come back, but it might take a few years.
It could come back like Red Dwarf. It could come back on a Dave or Dave and You or whatever it's called. It could come back on. It could come back in a different guise. It could come back on a streaming service that might not even exist yet. Who knows? We keep our fingers crossed. But you've just got to hope whoever brings it back, if it goes, understands it and knows, and they're a fan.
But this is what I mean. RTD is a fan of Doctor Who, and so you'd think, as the BBC did, well, he'll know what he's doing. But this time, not.
No, he's completely lost the plot.
It's almost like, I don't know. It's almost as if the only rationale I can see is he thinks TV audiences have changed so much that he has to bend Doctor Who to this new audience. But he's got it wrong because the audience aren't coming.
The audience is not there.
Yeah, so he's bent and twisted and maybe wrecked the Doctor Who formula for an audience that doesn't want that formula. And I may have been wrong a few years ago saying Doctor Who should be episodic and Doctor Who should be darker, but I think I'm on the money now. I think people want their drama to be serious. I think they want a reason to watch TV because there's so many reasons not to. And Doctor Who, if it blooming had the right showrunner, could have just landed at the right time to give people a good scare, a good reason to pull a family together and do that over episodes. And I think he's missed the point.
If you put on a good show, the people will come.
Yeah. And well, that's
basically.
Yeah. Maybe the world, as in TV producers, they've run out of ideas and they've run out of stories. They just have run out. You know, simple as that.
Well, Big Finish haven't run out of stories. They're always doing stuff. So
yeah, they find every little gap, don't they? Every little gap. I mean, they haven't done the Big Finish episode of the Queen Bat being milked yet. I mean, I'm giving them a tip there.
The milking of the Queen Bat.
Yeah, I'm an advocate for this Queen Bat. She's called Betty, but she's still griping somewhere. She plays bingo on Fridays, but she was furious. She has a little hairnet and everything. But yeah, Betty the Queen Bat. She wasn't happy, you know. Peter Davison didn't ask. And he dropped half of it as well. I mean, it was such a waste. It was such a painful experience for the Queen Bat. And then he dropped half of it.
This is so confusing to me, you know. It's so, I'm like, what's Brendan on about?
Well,
Oh,
there
dear
you
me.
go.
Have you not watched Caves?
No, he hasn't.
No, I
You've
don't
not
know.
watched.
Sorry,
You've
I'll...
not watched Caves.
No, I know. I'm so, I will. I know.
That's a
No,
classic.
honestly,
Absolute classic.
I said before we came on, that's the only reason I don't have my face out there. This is the real reason, everybody, honestly, that I am honestly I've got shooty, I mean, 15 Dr. tears running down my face every time Brendan tells me to shut up, or every time someone says you haven't seen this. It's
Yeah.
I'm a lost soul. No, I will
Well,
watch it. I'll
well,
put it on the list.
well, don't be lost on this one. You obviously have Review Yourself podcast. Can you just tell everybody what's coming up on your channel?
Yes. So it'll be midnight Saturday, as in midnight on Sunday, whatever. We have got coming up. What have we got coming up? It's a part of my Defending Yourself side series where everybody's got that one film that they absolutely love, and everyone else says it's awful. What are you thinking? For example, mine's 1997 Batman and Robin. I know. So it's Spider-Man 3. So the third installment of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man series. So yeah, I rewatched that with a guest, and he basically came on to tell me why he loves it. And then next week, so next Saturday, it's Frequency, the 2000 film with Dennis Quaid and Jim Caviezel about time travel, and he gets to talk to his dad. A really good father-son film. And yeah, there's over 300 episodes. We've been going 3.5 years. It's myself and my co-host Sarah. Yeah, there's absolutely all sorts. Best place to catch it though, instead of YouTube, because it doesn't update regularly anymore, for reasons, is wherever you listen to your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, etc. Yeah, go over and listen to it. There's also my most popular episode, which is Doctor Who Misery of the World, which was my solo review to Joy to the World. Don't know who it gave joy to. So yeah, lots of stuff over there, and we're on X and Instagram. So yeah, cheers, Brendan.
So, as we come to this, I mean, at this time tomorrow, I'll be on again. Oh my God. Yes, our first impressions, not of Robot Revolution. I haven't updated my card yet. How lazy am I? I've been out at the football. So, yes, Who Night, 11 p.m. tomorrow. But basically, there is the card there. Looks. We will be giving our first impressions. Now, one of the big things we do on Who Night, and I know the streamers review, but does any other review have the Broke Hack Bingo? Yeah. We have Broke Hack Bingo. We have a sci-fi scorecard, 22 items we judge each Doctor Who episode on. And get your sci-fi scorecard out and let's play Broke Hack Bingo. See what I'm doing there? We have Night Terrors and we have various other items. We've got Sunny, we've got Divine and Dragon, we've got Boomer Doug, and join us because you'll have just seen Doctor Who. I know you'll have been through all that. Yeah, I know. And we will be fresh. We will be frank. We will be honest. And anyway, you're our friends, so come and join us. Again, Jeremy, thanks for joining us, even though you're
Pleasure.
Pretending you don't watch all this Doctor Who.
I shall be watching your review tomorrow night.
Well, good night,
As will
everyone.
I.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks to the thread. Happy Easter, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah,
Ta-ta.
happy Easter. Cheers, Fred.